One of the most important things that you can do as a searcher trying to buy and operate a business is make a great first impression with sellers or brokers or other deal intermediaries, investors, even. And the main places that people are going to look to get a sense of you before you even talk to them virtually or in person is your LinkedIn profile, your website as a searcher if you have one, and your one pager as a searcher if you have one. And we are going to go through real searcher profiles and LinkedIn's and one pagers and share thoughts and feedback and ways that maybe they can take theirs to the next level. Each of these people has graciously agreed to be guinea pigs and get some free feedback. And we hope that this produces helpful content for you to improve your own profiles as well and make great first impressions. When I and my wife bought a business together, the seller of that business said, I knew that I was going to sell to you even before we had our first call. And that was because of my digital presence and research he'd done on me in advance. And that's what we want for you as well. We want you to already be selling sellers on you as a buyer even before you talk to them. I'm Grant Hensel. I'm the general partner at Entrepreneurial Capital. We are a $12.8 million fund that invests in people buying and running small, profitable, enduring businesses. And I'm joined by Geoff Cudd, who is the founder of Deal Prospectors, which is a service that helps searchers find deals, or private equity firms or independent sponsors find deals of off-market sellers who want to find a new buyer to carry their legacy forward. We've been honored to work with Geoff in a number of ways through our newsletter and collaborations with searchers, and are just thrilled to have his expertise to share with you today.
Thank you, Grant. Let's jump into tear down some LinkedIn profiles. The first volunteer we have is Connor Smith, and we're going to take a look at his LinkedIn profile. But before we jump into that, just a little bit of background about him. So his buy box, he's currently looking for home services and trade businesses, things like HVAC, plumbing, etc. He's looking in the Pacific Northwest, and he's targeting businesses with $1 to $3 million in EBITDA. And some relevant background for him is that he spent 7 years in corporate finance. So let's take a look at his profile. We're going to work our way from top to bottom here. So first, let's look at some of the good things here. And we'll try not to embarrass Connor too much here. But his profile image right here on the left, it's got great lighting. He's got a genuine smile. He looks approachable. It builds some trust with the audience, so that's great. He also has this LinkedIn badge here, which adds a little trust and credibility. And his business name, Wagon Creek Holdings, shows up prominently. That's great. And he's got some activity in his profile. You can see that he's active on LinkedIn and that he's posted within 30 days. So those are the good things. Let's take a look at some of the things we recommend changing. So first of all, the banner that he uses, while this is a very cool looking image, I'm not sure what mountain range this is, but I like it. But it's wasted real estate. We can put some messaging in here and use this as a free billboard to sell yourself to business sellers. So what we suggest instead of just a graphical image like this is something like this mock-up banner we created here. So here we immediately want the seller of a business that looks at your profile to know within 2 seconds or less what you're all about and how you relate to them, how you can help them. So we put in here that he's acquiring businesses and home services. So we know exactly what industry he's targeting, where he's targeting. He's looking in the Northwest. And we also put his EBITDA range. So basically his whole buy box here. And this allows sellers to self-qualify. If they've got a much smaller business or a much larger business, they know they probably shouldn't talk to him. But it reiterates that if they're in that range, oh, this guy is great. I want to talk to him. And then the last bit here, we suggest something like preserving your legacy, something that appeals to the seller, lets them know that you're not just some nameless corporate guy that's going to tear apart their business. You're actually going to protect their legacy, maybe keep their employees, that sort of thing. And it's just another vote of confidence to the seller. And then lastly, you can add little credibility signals here, like 7 years in finance, so that the seller knows you're a good financial operator. There's lots of things you can add here, awards, credentials, etc.
Something I'll just quickly say, Geoff, if I can interject, is sometimes we've seen people see good results not using the word EBITDA, but saying just profitability. Because sometimes if a seller doesn't have an MBA, might not be familiar with the term EBITDA, and so that goes back and forth. Like that's a decision to make of, do you want to say EBITDA to maybe appeal to a more financially sophisticated seller, or do you want to say something along the lines of profitability? to cast a wider net, and there's a trade-off there, and you can sort of choose, which way you go. The other thing that we've seen people use, which I think can work well, is saying, I'm trying to acquire one single home service or trades business in the Pacific Northwest, and and run it for the long term, versus plural, which can be a way to differentiate yourself from a private equity fund. That, again, is not necessarily always the right option in every scenario. Sometimes using the plural and using the EBITDA, especially if you're looking at larger businesses or you do genuinely want to acquire multiple, can be great. So there's just a trade-off there.
That's a great call out, Grant. And I'd even steer away from things like SDE because a lot of sellers don't know what seller's discretionary earnings is. So keeping it simple helps. And all these things are optional, just ideas. So moving down the line here, Connor says that he's a self-funded searcher. Okay, well, out of all the sellers I've talked to, I don't think a single one has known what the word searcher means. So immediately, self-funded searcher is confusing to people. So I would use something different there. And I would take the opportunity to share your buy box again, pre-qualify some of these people and attract the right people to engage with you, and communicate value to sellers, which we're not doing just yet. So simple change. Here is a recommended change. It's very similar to the profile image that we had. You don't have to repeat all this information. You don't even have to show the buy box, but something along the lines of that you're acquiring businesses would be great. And it tells them, again, what you're buying, where you're buying, what size, and then that emotional hook of preserving your legacy really helps as well. And then the location. So there's a disconnect on the location on his profile because he lives in Southern California, but he's targeting businesses in the Pacific Northwest. So if I'm a seller in the Pacific Northwest, I may think that Connor is too far away from me and that he's not serious and that my business can't be operated remotely. There's lots of ways you could fix this, but an easy one might be to just change this location to, say, the Pacific Northwest, or choose a location there. Or you could add in the about section that you're based in California, but you're actively pursuing a business acquisition in the Pacific Northwest. And you can think about other creative ways to relay that. But it is helpful to show a similar location to where you're searching. And then there's no About Me section on Connor's profile. So that's a quick win. Lots of real estate you can use there. I'm just going to quickly cover this, but feel free to pause the video, come back and read this. But you can expand on all the things that make you relevant to that seller, the types of businesses that you're looking for, your buy box, why the seller should think about working with you, and a CTA of, hey, let's talk. I'm available. Here's my information. Here's how to contact me in different channels. And formatting is important here as well. So a lot of people will just dump a wall of text into their about section, but use line breaks, use icons or emojis to kind of break it up and make it readable. Moving on down here, there's no featured section on this profile. So to get to a featured section, you want to enable creator mode, and that'll open up and you can add tiles here. And it's just more real estate that you can use to sell it yourself. So you can do things like he could link to Wagon Creek Holdings. He could put a little tile here, like a bigger tile. So I'll show you what that looks like in a second, but it's a big tile that takes up a third of the screen. He could make his one pager about his company. He could put that here as a tile. And what I think is a great idea is he could record a video introduction of himself. And if a seller watches that, they're going to get to know you a little bit better, what you're all about. They'll engage with you and they'll want to talk to you more if they actually see you on video, and you could say whatever you want there. And you could also add testimonials from your past, people that you've worked with, things like that, so that you can relay a little more trust.
I just want to say I love the video introduction idea. That's so smart, Geoff.
Great. So here is what it would look like if Connor implemented these changes here. So on the left is before what it looked like. On the right is the after. And one thing that you'll notice that we suggest as well is you can keep uniform color schemes here, and it just makes the overall profile look more professional. So we added these featured tiles at the bottom that I mentioned on the last slide, like scheduling a call, a link to his website, and they match the same color palette as up top here. And it just adds that uniformity. And you can see right away it jumps out. Even this heading to me, the heading and the profile are the things that jump out to me as the big difference before and after here. So Grant, why don't we take a look at Connor's one pager next here?
Looking at Connor's one pager, there are a lot of things that I like about this. I like that he has a prominent picture of himself. I believe this matches his LinkedIn picture, which is good for consistency. I like the illustration to identify his geographic area of focus. It's one thing to say Pacific Northwest, but it's another thing to explain visually exactly which states that means. You could argue whether or not Nevada is part of the Pacific Northwest, but you know that for Connor, it is not in his target area, which is absolutely fine. I like that he has the language about I'd like to acquire a single established business for the long term. I plan to leave my W-2 role and relocate with my fiance. And I like the little explanation of why his holding company is named Wagon Creek. So all of that is great. The target business criteria is strong. I think these make sense. The order makes a lot of sense where he's saying first it's geography and then the target range. I would say pre-tax profit here instead of EBITDA slash cash flow slash SDE. I think a lot of times the seller won't necessarily understand that, and everyone understands what pre-tax profit is. The other bullet points are sort of a wish list and are plenty of wonderful things that are, nice to have. Connor I think is a sophisticated searcher and knows that he probably won't get all of them, but can't hurt to ask. And then let's scroll all the way down to this why me section. I like these. I like that I'm not a tire kicker. I like that I have the capital. I like that you're dealing directly with me in particular. I like the call out to SM Bootcamp. And I like the continued success and legacy. Other things, if we scroll all the way down, that are also nice about this is have a QR code, which I'm guessing maybe links to his Calendly, if I had to guess. Good to include all the contact info, including cell phone, always very important to include. And then if we go to page 2.
Yeah, and I'd probably specify what that QR code is for.
Right. I agree. Okay, and this is great. This is a more in-depth background where he's talking about his parents owning and operating a veterinary clinic for 30 years, graduating as valedictorian of his class, and so forth. And if we just scroll all the way down, this is just the rest of his bio. And then he has a listing of the deal team partners, so quality of earnings, SBA lending, legal counsel, insurance, and so forth. All of these make him seem very credible. I'd potentially add other equity partners here, but that is not essential because you at least have one. Big picture, I like this one pager a lot. I really like when people actually go into more detail about their life story on page 2, and the goal of page 1 is to basically make clear what you're looking for, make clear who you are and what the highlights are, and make someone want to reach page 2. I think Connor does a really nice job of that. I don't have a ton of feedback for this. I think this is a really well executed one pager. I don't know if you'd add anything, Geoff.
I would agree with you, Grant. The only thing that I see when we start with the why me and then get into the bio is it is kind of a large wall of text, right? And I generally prefer short, like 1 to 2 sentence paragraphs. So maybe these can be broken up a little bit, maybe some images added. Definitely in the bio and background, like when you're looking at an about page of somebody on a website, like I love to see pictures of them doing things. And it doesn't have to be professional pictures. It could be them riding a motorcycle or climbing a mountain or things like that. And it just endears you to them and you get to know them a little bit better.
Yeah. You could add a little signature, like a sort of a electronic signature type of thing, just to make it seem maybe even more personal. But I like it. I think this is really well executed. It does the job. If you have one of the ideas that Geoff shared with the LinkedIn page was to share a short introduction video, maybe a 60-second introduction video. I like the idea of linking to something like that from this one pager. Maybe that's what their QR code goes, and you make clear that the QR code takes you to a introduction video. One of the things I will say about this one pager, and I have the same problem, is that Connor, you and I both look young. And especially if the seller is retiring, this is probably a 65, 70-year-old seller. One of the questions they might have in the back of their mind is this person who looks very young credible? Can they bring together the capital? Do they have the experience necessary to buy this business? And so it might be valuable to move some of your proof points about your credibility up into the first page and have them be higher on the first page. One of the things that's most credibility inducing is all the way at the bottom of the second page. You list your advisors and your deal team partners who, by is a great team. I know a lot of these people. They are actually great. And the average age is older, which could be credentializing. So it might be worth bringing this up to the first page and explaining a little bit more around how you've built this team of advisors and deal team partners and supporters and how they'll be walking into this transaction alongside you to build some of that credibility. And then we can jump over to your website. Okay. I really like the headline. I want to buy your business. Nice and clear. That's fantastic. I would do the same thing where it emphasize credibility early and have the deal team partners. I'm guessing it's at the bottom of this, about at the bottom of this page, but I would put that higher up. Okay, so yeah, so very similar content to the one pager. I would put the deal team higher. I'd put the testimonials higher as well, alongside your criteria. So at the very top, I do also think that it's a little text heavy right at the top. I like the contact information right at the top, but I'd probably try and pack more into the headline. You want to buy someone's business, which is great. I wonder if you could say something like, I want to buy a home services or trades business in the Pacific Northwest, or like buying one home services / trades business in the Pacific Northwest and running it for the long term, or something like that. And then have some bullet points under that maybe say at least $1 million or $1 to $2 million in pre-tax profit. You could say backed by a team of 6 advisors, et cetera, because you want to really clearly deliver what is it you're trying to do and what are the criteria and why are you credible in doing that. Anything you'd add, Geoff?
Only that if Connor does decide to do like a video of himself on a website, that's a great place to just embed the video and people could just hit play directly there. So something to consider, easy add-on if you decide to go that route.
Yeah. And I like, some people will knock you for having so much text. I do like that you allow people to get to know you in depth by reading all of the text, because for a person who's genuinely considering selling you their business, they're going to read all of the text. I just think that you have an opportunity to make the top more clear, draw people in a little bit more, and make the credibility points earlier, such that people will be very interested in reading the rest of everything that you prepared.
The next person's profile we're going to tear down is Lauren Peck. Her buy box is HVAC, plumbing, electrical, marine, auto repair, industrial services. She lives in Florida. She's looking at businesses between 500K to 2 million in EBITDA. And the relevant bit of experience about her is that she's got 20 years of operating in service-driven businesses, which should be appealing to sellers that run service businesses. So moving down her profile from top to bottom, the first thing is her image here, which looks professional. She looks very approachable. It's got good lighting. She looks confident, so that's good. She's verified on LinkedIn, so it adds that trust signal. She's geographically aligned, so she lives in Boca Raton, Florida. She's searching for businesses in Florida. That's good. There's no disconnect there of searching in a foreign city. And her about section relays really strong experience. She's been in service-based industries for 20 years. She lists out those industries. She shows how she's an operator. And she's active on LinkedIn. She's posted within the past 30 days. So when we're looking at the top here, there's a lot of wasted real estate with the banner here. We could use this for a lot of different purposes. So we recommend a new version of this where you can actually list out the buy box. You can say right away that you're seeking to acquire a service business or service businesses. I think business singular is probably better. We want to relay who you are immediately. So whoever's looking at this profile, within 2 seconds, they want to know who you are and why they should interact with you. And if they're selling a business, they immediately see the buy box here. They know the types of businesses that you're targeting. It overlaps with them so that they can self-qualify themselves to see, yes, I run the kind of business that she's looking for. You can also add social proof signals, like we recommend something like this 20 years of experience in the service industry. And you can add CTAs right to the top of your banner here. So reach out for a confidential chat. A lot of people on LinkedIn don't want to be contacted. So if you actually signal it's okay to contact me, you might get some inbound inquiries in addition to whatever outbound tactics that you're using. Moving down here, let's look at her headline. So this headline is okay, but it's not really targeted towards sellers. It's written for the wrong audience, I think. It reads more like a resume selling her credentials rather than putting yourself in the shoes of a seller and what's going to be appealing to them. And it doesn't indicate that she's actively buying a business right now. There's also some corporate jargon in this and in the about section. And a lot of service-based business owners may not understand all of that corporate jargon, or it just won't resonate with them. So you have to talk in the language of the audience that you're trying to appeal to. So here is a suggested alternative. We are showing her buy box, that she's acquiring a business right away, that she's got experience. She's an executive leader. We also mentioned that she's interested in preserving the legacy and the team of the company that she's acquiring, which is a lot of sellers are interested in that. So right away, the sellers know that she's a buyer and that she's a good match for the type of business that they have, and that we're appealing emotionally, that preserving your legacy and team bit. Moving on to the About Me section. So this content is solid. It's really good, but the format could use some improvement. So there's some technical jargon, corporate jargon in here, which I mentioned already. It doesn't immediately relay that she's a buyer, and it's difficult to read. It's a wall of text. There are no breaks, line breaks, I should say, and could use a clear call to action. So here is a recommended alternative. You can pause the video if you want to look in depth here, but we immediately say, hey, I'm looking to buy a business in Southeast Florida. The types of businesses that she's looking for, and why, as a business owner, you would want to work with her, and what you will do to maintain that person's legacy. And then you can also add some bits about your experience, or her experience in this case. And at the end there, what is the CTA? What do they need to do next? Which is contact her for a consultation. So here is the end product. On the left, we have what it is currently, the before, and then a recommended mock-up on the right here. So you can see right away, better use of a banner going across the top. We've got a CTA here. It just looks more professional. We also aligned the color format so that it's uniform. So you can see this banner image matches the featured section down here. So she already had a featured section, which is great. But let's call it out. Let's make it really visible, what we want that person to do. Schedule a call with her. So we put in big text, schedule a call here. And we have a link right to her one-pager here, so that there's a next step for that seller to go down the rabbit hole further and learn more about Lauren. Grant, do you have anything to add?
Something I'll just mention briefly, I love the improvements to the banner at the top of the page. It's always very valuable to test on mobile as well. And you'll see that maybe it feels like there's a little bit, almost too much spacing here on desktop between Lauren's picture and the text that appears a little bit to the right. That's probably necessary to have the banner work well on mobile also. And so just as a reminder, always check mobile, because the vast majority of people, when they look at your profile, will probably be doing it on their phone.
So Grant, this is Lauren's one-pager. I'll hand it off to you if you want to provide feedback on this.
Perfect. And if we could just zoom in a little bit. I love that the picture in the top right is very prominent. Always good to let people put a face to the name. I like the use of the table to make clear what exactly your buy box is. I think that's very well done. The value creation strategy and some of these risk mitigation strategies, these start to feel more like they're designed for investors or other potential collaborators, like a lawyer or a SBA loan broker. I don't think that this makes as much sense for a buyer. And I do think that your one pager should mostly be crafted with a buyer in mind. A lot of this are things that the seller just won't know what they mean necessarily. They're not going to know what roll over equity is or holdback is, or what non-SBA capital structures look like versus SBA capital structures. So those would be things that I would either have multiple versions of. As an investor, this is great info. I would probably move the why me up more towards the top, and I would break this down into bullets or maybe have little sections with icons that make it a little bit easier to skim. And I would write it in a way that makes it feel very non-resume oriented. So lines like deep experience in building customer relationships, developing service programs, managing teams is just a little bit too resume oriented. I would try and make that potentially, if this is seller oriented, a little more casual and a little more personal, such that they can get to know you. I really like the based in Southeast Florida. I would make a big point of that. And we can see at the bottom, investor value proposition. Makes me think that this one pager is mostly designed for investors, which is great. I think this would do fine as an investor one pager. I would probably just tweak it significantly if it was going to be shared with a buyer or with a broker as well. Because these one pager documents are great to share with brokers for them to have on file with you, for them to share with sellers when they're making introductions. And so I would just make it a lot more personal and a lot less jargon oriented.
Okay, we're switching over to Lauren's website now.
Okay, so here we are on the website. One of the things that I would wonder about if I was a seller is what LP Service Ventures means. It might be a little unclear. LP, I'm guessing in this case, means limited partner. Even as an investor, I'm not sure I fully understand it. So that's just something I would ponder as what the name means. It's not the end of the world, but just mentioning it. I like this headline, steady successor for your next chapter, considering retirement or transition. I would probably change inquire now to have a confidential conversation or let's connect or something like that. Inquire now maybe seems a little bit formal. I like preserving what's been built, growing what's ahead. This website is deliberately, I think, not leaning as much into the personal. And I think that there is some opportunity there. These pictures are stock photos. I would probably, if I was Lauren, I'd probably put my own photo there instead of the picture of the two people with the computers.
If Lauren has experience in the service industry, I'd even show her alongside some service businesses, in front of a truck or a van or with a team of contractors if she can.
Right. Yeah, I would use no stock photography if at all possible, and just real pictures of ideally Lauren doing real things. If we keep scrolling, contact form, which is good. So yeah, so this is very simple and basically just trying to exist as a website, as a little bit of extra credibility. I think the criteria page could be improved from a design standpoint. I think that this might be a little bit decredentializing, since it just seems that, sort of spacing and timing is weird.
She could even consider turning this into a one-page website just with on-page anchors so that it's just scrollable all at once. Since there's not a lot of content here, you could go either way.
Right. I tend to agree with the one page. And then let's see about, because maybe that has more of the personal side. Yes. Okay. A different kind of buyer, 20 years, lives in Southeast Florida. I would have this on the homepage. If it was me, I would put it all into one page, like Geoff said, and I would lead with the personal side a little bit more. I would also probably, pay someone like a designer $500 to just make the design look really cohesive. The homepage looks fine, and then these other pages maybe were made by someone who's not as tech savvy, which is totally fine. But I think that you can cost yourself a little bit of credibility there by accident.
Moving on, we're going to look at Rob Caliento. So Rob is looking for a B2B services or manufacturing company. He's also interested in healthcare distribution in Massachusetts, with EBITDA between 250K and 1.5 million. And his relevant experience is that he spent about 10 years at KPMG in their corporate finance department at the VP level. So let's dig into his profile. So first, let's look at his image. This is a great image. It's professional. He's approachable. He's got a genuine smile. I like the image. He's got the trust signal of a LinkedIn badge, which is great. And in his about section, he mentions his search process clearly and shows that he's planning on operating a business and that he's a committed operator. Those are some great signals. And he's got a featured section here. And I think that needs to be expanded, but the fact that he has a featured section is great, and he's got some certifications. And he's active on LinkedIn. He's posted within the past 30 days. So those are all good signals. Here's what we could improve. So he doesn't make good use of his banner at the top here. There's lots of things we can do with this. It's a free billboard that we can use to appeal to sellers. So we suggest something like this. We could say immediately that he's looking to acquire a business in Massachusetts. We can repeat the buy box here and say exactly what he's looking for, so that sellers can immediately identify with that. They can see right away what you're about, how you're appealing to them, or how you can help them, and what type of business that he's targeting. In the top left here, we just added a little logo, but you could add a call to action here to book a confidential consultation. You could add some awards or accolades for social proof as well. Moving on down to his heading, owner at Elbert Street. So that's a little bit vague and a little weak. No offense, Rob. But it's just not meaningful to sellers. And Elbert Street is your company name. I know a lot of people name companies after the street they grew up on or something like that, but it kind of sounds like a property address, like Rob's just putting where he lives here. And it doesn't indicate that he's buying a business. It doesn't indicate what industry he's going after or geography. So to improve that, here's a recommended header. We can repeat a lot of the same things that we put in the billboard, like the buy box that he's going after, that he's buying a business, and let the sellers know that he's actively looking to buy, that he's not just a consultant that wants to talk to them, where he's looking to buy, what size deal he's looking for, and that he's a committed operator. He's got experience operating. He wants to be an operator. Moving down to the About section, he's got good content in here, but not the best structure. That could be improved. So I began a search process is a little bit passive. So that could be said more in a more active frame. This whole section doesn't really relay that he's buying a business, and it reads more like a resume focused on his background versus what's appealing to sellers. You always have to put yourself in the mind of the customer or the seller and what's going to be appealing to them. And he could use a better call to action. So he does have visit my website, but why not add something like book a confidential call with me or something like that and make it more apparent what the next step is. So you can pause the video here if you want, but to cover all the points I just brought up, we can repeat the buy box here, say exactly what type of business that he's searching for, so that sellers can self-qualify there, why you should work with him, so list some bullets out there, show a little bit of his expertise, his background. All of this can be formatted with breaks, bullets, things like that to make it easily digestible. And then close with a CTA, a call to action here. So what's the next step? Should they contact you? Where can they learn more about you? Your website, your one-pager, etc. Moving on down, Rob does have a featured section here. You can enable this by turning on creator mode on LinkedIn. And he's got a couple of certifications, but not much else here. So we need to make better use of this real estate. These licenses may not mean a lot to most business sellers. They don't know what they are. So I'm not saying to remove them. I think he could just move them down and put more important things on top of that. Showcase what you're searching for and use this opportunity to educate sellers and engage with them and have a clear call to action. So here are some ideas. You could put what your acquisition criteria is and link that to a one-page PDF about yourself. You could add a video introduction about yourself that's only a minute or two, but it allows sellers to learn about you, to get a feel for the type of person that you are, to warm up, to feel like they know you. You could add case studies and testimonials if you have them. He has a lot of experience at KPMG, so if he's advised any owners there, he could weave in some case studies from there. And then I still suggest that he includes these certifications, but just move them down a little bit. And then he does have some activity, some content that he's posted, which is great. That really helps build your LinkedIn profile. However, his activity is all geared towards other searchers. So he's encouraging other searchers to engage with him, but not business owners that are looking to sell their business. So think about adding some activity that's relevant to your target audience that you're going after. So on the left here is his current profile before, and then you can see the changes we recommend on the right. We made use of the profile image here again. Let the sellers know immediately within the first 2 seconds what you're looking to achieve and how it relates to them. Better header here. And then again, the uniformness between the top and the bottom just makes this guy look much more professional. So you can really draw attention to your CTAs to book a call and things like that by adding a whole big tile here at the bottom. Schedule a call with him. Learn about Albert Street Capital. Grant, do you have anything to add?
I just love the consistency. I love that you made his background, even in the profile picture, that same green that's in the header text and in the call to actions in the featured section. This whole profile, just as you glance at it, whether on phone or on desktop, comes across with so much more credibility than the previous profile. And that's what we're looking for ultimately, is that in the first half second when a seller or a broker looks at your profile and they just glance, even before they've had a conscious thought, we want them to think, oh, wow, this is a credible buyer. This could be a great person to buy my business.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So let's take a look at his one pager next.
Right. So as we look at Rob's one pager, the header, I think, could be improved to be more relevant to a potential seller. So search parameters and biography doesn't necessarily convey information. The header is one of the most important pieces of real estate. And I'd probably want to see something along the lines of maybe what Geoff had been thinking about in terms of the LinkedIn header of trying to buy one Massachusetts business. You have that as a subheader, searching to buy and personally operate one great small business. I'd probably just combine those two and I would make the Massachusetts target criteria more clear. The stock imagery behind the business profile and geographic scope and industry focus, I think could be replaced with something else. I would always say either use icons if you're just trying to illustrate a simple concept, or use real pictures of yourself or yourself doing things if you're trying to give more personal flavor. I do think that this is a lot of information and it's hard to see initially what you should be focusing your eye on. So maybe having a really clear headline and then small call outs, perhaps with little icons that make clear the most important things that you want to communicate, which could be the size of business, reiterating the geography, and maybe talking about ways that you're credible or highlighting ways that you're credible is probably the most important thing from my perspective for the top of this page. And then if we scroll down on the bottom half of the page, we have a more detailed acquirer bio. We have the website QR code, which I think can be fine. I love the idea that Geoff has shared about having a short introduction video, which maybe is on the website, and maybe that's where that website QR code goes. If that's the case, I would probably say, watch short introduction video or watch 60-second introduction video. I don't mind that there's a lot of detail here. It is a little bit of a wall of text, but I don't mind having a decent amount of detail because a seller who's made it to this point is really interested in learning as much as possible about you. I like the inclusion of contact information. I wouldn't hesitate to actually make this 2 pages, to let it be a little bit more spread out, where you have some of this detailed bio information on the second page, and you can have the first page as more just quickly hitting the high points of what are you looking for and why are you credible, and a little bit about you and how you're maybe different from other buyers, and then have the additional detail. Okay, so here we are on the website. The big headline is Albert Street Capital, dedicated to acquiring, operating, and building one privately held business for the long term. I would switch that, where I wouldn't say Albert Street Capital again. It doesn't really matter, but I do like that headline a lot. I would use that actually as the headline on your one pager as well. Just make it very clear. I would also probably say one privately held Massachusetts business for the long term, since that's specifically where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, Albert Street Capital could even be brought into the header here next to the logo and just removed from this section entirely.
Absolutely. Okay, and if we scroll down, the key in all of these things is making sure that it doesn't come across as overly corporate or overly templated. I do think that this website was designed using a template, which is great. Some of the design characteristics might not make as much sense here. The text for my approach is very big, and then the descriptions under that are very small. The transparency, confidentiality, flexibility, value creation, equity contribution are just a little bit generic. And I wonder if there are things that could be replaced where it's more unique. One of the things we think about in businesses we own is what are the things that they can say that are their unique calling card. I would think really thoughtfully about what those are, and then I would maybe have those be the little accordion sections. Because everyone can basically promise these 5 things, and everyone does promise. All buyers promise those 5 things that you're promising, and so it would be interesting to say things that maybe everyone can't say, like, lived in Massachusetts for the last 20 years, or other things like that that are more unique. The other confusing thing here is exploring a fractional strategic finance partner for your business. To me, is confusing if the idea is to buy a business. I would probably replace that entirely, unless there's also a consulting business going on here, but I think that can be confusing. I love the pictures here. I like, hi, I'm Rob. I'm sure this biography section is great. I would make the font size bigger and maybe separate it out more, use icons, maybe have sort of a 2x2 set of sections where there's 4 total with little icons and then short descriptions. But love the fishing picture, love the family picture, love the professional picture. And then let's scroll all the way to the bottom. I guess that's it. I would probably include a contact form just to make it abundantly clear that the next step is maybe getting in touch.
Yeah, I think these images down here are great. I'd almost show them up higher. Well, it's not that long a website, but I mean, people sell and work with people. They don't sell and work with big nameless corporations, right? So getting that relationship, showing that you're a real person, developing rapport, I think that's important to hit on right away.
I completely agree. I would put those pictures at the top because the picture of the road, it's a stock photo. Again, to the extent that you can avoid stock photos entirely and have real pictures, it always tends to be helpful in coming across as a real person. Hopefully this is helpful as you work to optimize your LinkedIn profile, your one-pager, and your website. They're so valuable as you seek to make a great first impression with sellers and brokers. Thank you, Geoff, for being with us. You have so much expertise in this area, and it's just wonderful that you're able to help our community in this way. And where can people find you, and how can they learn more if they want perhaps you to do this for them?
Thanks, Grant. So yeah, you can find me at dealprospectors.com. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free to leave a note on the contact form or just email me, Geoff, Geoff, at dealprospectors.com. We're also offering full LinkedIn profile optimization services. And if you're interested in that, if you use code EC for Entrepreneurial Capital, you'll get a $50 discount and get into your LinkedIn profile and optimize it for you, give you all the images and collateral, and send you on your way.
Thanks, Geoff. And as always, if you are buying a business and you need equity capital, we are investors in people buying small, profitable, enduring businesses, and we'd love to be helpful in any way we can. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant.